Well, all of you must have heard of a new parliament building which is coming up, which is called the Central Vista project. And in fact, right behind me, while it's not very clear, the construction work is going on. Many of the areas have been cordoned off over here. But before we talk about the new parliament building and the shifting into it, let's this week focus about what parliament is all about. You know, you've heard words like privilege motions, ethics committee, the speaker, the question hour, the 0 hour. So this time it's going to be more of an education class, and I'm going to be focusing on what parliament session is all about. I'm Pallavi Ghosh, and this week's One Take is on all the nitty-gritties and whatever happens inside the corridors of parliament. Right behind me is the Temple of Democracy. You can see the parliament building. It's in a cycle motion, and there's several rooms over here, and housing there are the offices of MPs, their staff, of political parties as well. On the ground floor behind me is the office of the Prime Minister, flanked by offices of all his Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister's office itself has several sub-offices where his staff sits there. Apart from that, each member of parliament has his own office, and ministers certainly do, and the leaders of political parties also have, and the political parties themselves have their office. So you'll have an office for, say, the Congress party, for the Trinamool Congress. Depending on the strength of the party inside parliament, the room size also differs, and so that's very interesting. Now, we're going to talk about what happens inside parliament. I remember when I first started covering parliament, it was very difficult to distinguish between, say, a Lok Sabha and a Rajya Sabha for, we were just students at that point of time. How did we distinguish? Remember, the red color carpet stands for Rajya Sabha. The green color stands actually for Lok Sabha. The People's House, where people are directly electing the members of parliament, and in Rajya Sabha is an indirect election where the MPs who are elected and the MLAs, they get together in an electoral college, and that's where the members of parliament of the Rajya Sabha are elected, and that's why it matters which political party comes to power in which state. These days we are hearing a lot about privilege motions, privilege notices. What is it all about? Why are we hearing so much about it? It's because of the Pegasus Snoopgate allegations. Political parties like the TMC, the Congress have moved privilege notices against the government, saying it's a breach of privilege of members of parliament who are actually shrouded in secrecy. They have that benefit. But I'm going to focus on the privilege notice because there's been yet another notice which has been given, and that is when the MOS Health said that no deaths have occurred in the country because of shortage of oxygen cylinders. And at that point of time, a privilege motion has been moved against the MOS Health on the grounds that she was lying on the floor of the house. What is a privilege notice? What is a privilege? See, every member of parliament, like a diplomat is, the MP is also protected inside the house. There are certain privileges which a member of parliament enjoys, and those privileges are guarded. Now, if an MP is accused of or is actually proved to have lied on the floor of the house, that is considered to be a breach of privilege. And that's what the notice is all about. The most famous case of the privilege notice actually being successful was in 1978, when Charan Singh had filed a privilege notice against the then leader Indira Gandhi on the grounds of the excesses during emergency. That notice was accepted, it was cleared, she had to resign. Similar one against Subramaniam Swamy, also because he was giving random interviews which were threatening the national security to foreign journals. In recent times, not all of them have been successful, but notices against Rahul Gandhi because he accused the then Defence Minister and the Prime Minister of stealing, of theft as far as the Rafale issue is concerned. Renuka Chaudhary also filed a privilege notice against the Prime Minister because she alleged that Prime Minister had used unparliamentary words against her. So that is as far as a privilege notice goes. You give a notice, it has to be accepted by the chairperson. It goes to the privilege committee deliberates, and if they feel that there is a fit case, then that motion is moved, which means an MP can either be suspended or in slighter mellow cases will actually be suspended for a particular period, or fine has to be given, and so on. Now, there is an ethics committee. The ethics committee is to protect the ethics of the house. Now, a recent case, if you remember, was that for cash for votes, where it was felt that the MPs had actually violated the ethics of parliament, and those charges were proved and they were suspended from the house. They were lost their membership, which of course came to a very close to Lok Sabha elections. That's as far as privilege and ethics committee is concerned. These are the main two issues which are in focus these days. We are then of course also talking about the question hour, the 0 hour. Because why are we talking about it? Because every time the opposition gets belligerent and does not allow the House to run, the point which is made by the chairperson in Rajya Sabha, speaker in Lok Sabha, is that there has been lots of working hours lost. Allow the question hour to continue, allow the 0 hour to continue. Now, what is a question hour? Question hour means every MP has a right to question or raise questions from a minister on any issue. It can be on health issue, it can be on a raging issue, they want to have statistics, and the MP can give a response to it either in written or in oral, depending on the way the question has been asked. There's a 0 hour which doesn't have any fixed agenda. Any MP can stand up and ask any question. In a sense, they're considered to be sacrosanct. 1 hour is fixed per day for this question hour as far as 0 hour, which is why both the chairperson as well as the speaker keep on talking about the fact that you can discuss any issue. Please don't create this commotion. We need to have this kind of a question hour and the 0 hour to carry on. This other interesting part is that please, MPs do get a salary, but they also get a daily allowance, which has consistently increased from 500 to 2,000. Some members of parliament, and I remember Jay Panda was one of them, because of the repeated disruptions in the earlier Lok Sabha session, he had said, I'm going to forego it because it's not correct that I come to parliament, sign a register and get that money. This is also a question which is being raised. If the MPs, no matter which political party they belong to, are actually disrupting the House because they think it's their right, and in a parliamentary democracy everyone has a right to dissent, then do they also have the right to take that money? There has actually been a private member bill which has been moved on the grounds that actually no MP should take this money on ethical grounds. Well, it's a debate which is going to go on endlessly because, believe it or not, there have been bills which have been passed which have actually increased the salaries and the allowances of MPs. Which reminds me that many of the MPs also get a solid allowance. They have an office to maintain, ministers also an office to maintain, but the MPs also get staff. Political parties are also having a staff inside to carry on the work of the political party, which is also funded from the money which goes into the parliament. That is as far as parliament is concerned. I have broadly explained the main features of the parliament. There is a speaker and there is of course the chairperson of Rajya Sabha who are actually conducting the business of the House, and they have several rights, and the main job is to ensure that the proceedings of the House goes off very smoothly. Of course, the Prime Minister is the head of the government and he holds a pride place. He goes in through a separate gate because of security reasons. We are now building a new parliament building, and I'm seeing your reactions which are coming in because many of them are critical of the fact that why are the opposition leaders disrupting the House and this is not fair. Well, that's an endless debate. But we are also talking about a new Central Vista building right behind me, and the reason which is being given for that is very simple, is that the old building is now under pressure. The number of MPs have increased, the staff has increased, visitors have increased, and therefore the space crunch is there. And there is also security. There was, for example, a kitchen. There are many kitchens. There are security problems. There are health hazards. The Central Vista building, we've seen that Bhumi Pujan was done. And the main purpose of the Central Vista building is actually to increase the strength of the staff to make it safer. But interestingly, it also has a seating arrangement inside Lok Sabha for at least 1,200 MPs, and now that's become a topic of debate. Is the government now moving towards increasing the number of Lok Sabha MPs? There's a fear in the opposition, and Manish Tiwari has also tweeted on that there needs to be a debate on this, because this means that the advantage could go to the BJP ahead of the next 2024 election. Well, that's a topic which we are certainly going to keep for later. Meanwhile, all preparations on to move to the new parliament building. Do give in your reactions. This was more of an educative class. For me, I've learned over years of coverage of parliament. The best education I've really got is from inside the corridors of parliament, from knowing nothing about him, from knowing what the different color of carpet means to what a question privilege notice means. Do give in your reactions. Thank you so much for watching. We are going to be back more with next week.